You are watching In the Loop live on Bloomberg Television, streaming on your tablet, phone, and Bloomberg.com. The world's ultra-wealthy now holds more than $5 trillion in real estate, and they're chasing luxury marquee properties, spurring bidding wars and higher prices. Well, in our continued Property Players series, we talked to one such developer, Donahue Peebles of the Peebles Corporation, with $5 billion of investments in marquee properties. Don, so first off, you just signed another contract to develop land in D.C., right?
Yes.
Okay, so tell me about that.
We're building a fantastic boutique hotel in downtown Washington in the Mount Vernon Triangle neighborhood, which is near Union Station and in the heart of the new downtown, which is where the Arts District is and Gallery Place and so forth. And there we're building a standard hotel with luxury residences above. So a boutique hotel with hotel services for residents as well.
And this is part of how you've been able to kind of get an edge over other property developers, right? You go into cities that others are not really that focused on, right? So kind of I don't want to say second tier because I come from Philly, but you know, Philadelphia, right? Or Las Vegas. Those kinds of cities versus New York or LA.
Yeah, how I would describe our company is what we do differently is we have a heavy focus on public-private partnerships, and we do that nationally. So we're a national entrepreneurial firm. So we become local developers in these tertiary markets and primary markets. But we focus our efforts. A big part of our products is obtained through public-private partnerships. So we bid on publicly owned land. And we do that in Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, New York City, and other parts of the country.
And are you finding bidding wars here, not just for that land, but then once you develop?
Oh, yeah, look, the prices of land for luxury products, so for high-end luxury condos, for example, the price for land has tripled in the last 2.5 years or so. Tripled. So that means that basically you could have bought, for example, the former Drake Hotel site at Park Avenue and 57th. You could have bought that property in 2008 for about $300 a square foot of buildable area. Today, if that were on the market, it would be $1,500 to $2,000 a foot buildable area. So you can see what that does to prices of the finished product as well, because one component of land is escalating to that degree. And that's an example of what's happening in Manhattan.
Does that price someone like you, though, out at all? Because you say, wait a minute, like, I'm not going to be able to make the returns that I can make in other cities.
No, it doesn't price us out, but it's not what we do. We focus on getting it earlier. So we've bought in Manhattan already. We feel good about our property. We're in the process now of converting the landmark original New York Life Insurance Company building in Tribeca on Leonard Street. We're converting that building. It's a 400,000 square foot building. We're converting that to luxury condos. So we made our bet. We bought that building a couple of years ago.
And you can go elsewhere now.
Exactly. And we're still looking for opportunities in New York City as well. But we're not out here competing at $1,500 and $2,000 a square foot for land, nor are we in the marketplace downtown where land is $800 to $1,000 a square foot of buildable area.
What do rich people want? What do they want to buy?
Quality of life. They want quality of life.
We all want quality of life, right?
But we all do, and those who have the financial means are willing to pay for it. And those financial means are defined in increments. You know, there's someone who is a $5 million buyer, and they're going to want their home the way they want it, and the most desirable luxury lifestyle they can afford. Someone who's going to buy $10 million is going to want something different. When you get to the $20 and $30 million, what goes quicker is the more expensive. I'd say the ones I would say in New York City, for example, something over $20 million is going to go quicker than something at $5 million.
Are you seeing turnover? I mean, are we talking just days?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. In fact, you know, if you look at New York, you're seeing some of these, you know, headline pricing at $10,000, $12,000 a square foot.
Right.
And, for example, there's a migration happening in New York as well. Upper East Side, many of the Upper East Siders are now moving downtown. Upper West Siders are moving downtown because of quality of life.
Well, I hear prices on the Upper East Side, which used to be the toniest place to live in New York, have gone down quite considerably, in fact.
Well, they're stagnant. They haven't, some. You know, the premier buildings on Park Avenue and Fifth Avenue, they're still doing very well. But it's the buildings that are on the Upper East Side, the run-of-the-mill luxury apartment buildings, those units there are not having the same escalation in prices because there's not as much of a demand for them. The demand is downtown and then the trophy locations overlooking the park.
So if you were competing with several other properties, let's say in Miami, for instance, what would be the distinguishing, what would get them to go to a Peebles Corporation property?
Well, we've got a great building we're building right now. We're getting ready to go to the market in about a month on, and that is a luxury building called Bass Club Estates.
Yes.
And that building has private pools, 12-foot to 25-foot ceilings. The homes themselves are estates in the sky. They're all full floor or duplexes that are 2 floors, and so they have.
And they all have pools.
Pools. Many of them have home theaters. They're state-of-the-art electronics. Unparalleled services, including, a garage within a garage, 4-car parking.
If I live there, I might never leave. Oh. Don, just stay with me. We'll talk more about business and politics with Don Peebles. But coming up, we're going to ask him about the sale of the LA Clippers. He looked into buying the team. Why did he change his mind? And we are back with real estate investor Don Peebles, the chairman and CEO of Peebles Corporation, the company he founded. And Don, there's another area where you are also very well known, which is in sports. Business and sports, they meld together so well, right? Okay, so you considered at one point buying the LA Clippers, is that right?
I did. I considered buying it as a business investment, though.
Okay.
And that meant that I was expecting to make money while I owned it. At the price that's being paid for the Clippers now, if the sale goes through, it's more like buying a great masterpiece, buying a Rembrandt or buying a Picasso, except you get to interact with it and enjoy it.
Right.
But you'll make money one day when you sell it. Look at the return on investment that Donald Sterling is going to make for horrible behavior, for example.
Yeah.
He bought that team for $12 million, and he is selling it for $2 billion. And he's kicking and screaming along the way on top of it all, as opposed to saying, thank you very much. Let's take the $2 billion and call it a day. What a great return on your money.
That's right. Is Steve Ballmer going to get a good return on this?
You know what? It's a quality of life purchase. Many times, NBA teams or sports franchises are quality of life, purchases. And so I think if it gives him personal enjoyment and satisfaction and a way now to channel his sense of competitiveness, because obviously he's an extremely competitive person. He ran Microsoft and made it one of the greatest companies in the world. And you don't do that by not being competitive. He loves basketball, and he's now retired from Microsoft. Why not?
Why not?
He can afford it, and it certainly is a lot more fun than owning a Picasso.
You know what, though? Everyone said when he was at Microsoft that Microsoft's not cool anymore. Ballmer's not cool. I think with the LA Clippers, he gets a little bit of coolness, maybe?
Oh, I think so. He gets cool, and also he becomes, more widely known. The average person in America doesn't know who the CEO of Microsoft is or was. They know who Bill Gates. Yeah. But that's because he's a great, innovative entrepreneur, but they don't know kind of the COO or the CEO of the company. And so this will give him an opportunity to be much more of a global or an American coming out party.
So how much were you willing to pay for it?
Under $1 billion. So I was way
just under?
Off. Yeah, under $1 billion.
Okay.
Yeah. So I just didn't think it. We thought that there was no way that that team could make economic sense at anything north of $1 billion, and we thought the right price there was $700 to $900 million. And when the numbers started getting to $1.5 billion, it just didn't make any sense. And look, there were other bidders who came to us and said, let's combine forces, but no one could get to those kind of numbers because, again, it's a lifestyle purchase. And what the heck? Maybe, maybe one day after I finish doing all the stuff I'm doing here, my son's running this company, that I could go and have some fun. Either a sports team or politics,
That's true. I knew you almost ran for Washington mayor, or DC mayor, right?
I did.
Okay, so I got to get to Don Sterling, though. I mentioned Don Sterling. He's about to sue the NBA again, or he might have already sued them again. Is he a racist?
Look, I don't know. I thought his comments were horrible. And when I heard these recordings, it sounded to me that he frankly isn't well. His behavior and speech wasn't animated. He didn't think anyone was listening, so there was no reason for him to be tentative. No.
Okay.
No. He's never, look, the Clippers have always kind of lingered in the cellar of the NBA. They finally are having their moment because of making some better draft decisions, and they got the good fortune of getting Chris Paul, who should have been a Los Angeles Laker, because that's where he went initially, and the NBA canceled that trade. So look, I think that he's not well. He is certainly, that kind of speaking is detrimental and gives you some insight into how he thinks. But look, I think also it highlights a bigger issue for the NBA, though. The NBA, and this is why it's a sensitive topic for them. The NBA, if you look at 90% of the players are African American. And we have the league has one African American owner, one. And one female with Jerry Buss's family, his son and daughter, on the Lakers.
But is that the responsibility of the NBA to reach out?
Well, I don't know. I think optically it presents some challenges for them, and that is why this has become a sensitive issue that they wanted to close out right away. Because, look, the reality is that if these players, the other thing is that these players are creating significant value. It's not Donald Sterling that created a $2 billion business. It's Chris Paul, it's Blake Griffin, it's that team of players.
So you're saying, he created that wealth on the back of successful and even more successful African-American athletes?
Well, I don't think, no, look, these guys are multimillionaires, so they're well paid, but the reality is that
But okay, here's the question, though. I've always wondered about this. When all this came out, everyone said, look, everyone knew Don Sterling was a racist, that he discriminated against people. So why didn't anybody in the business community who knew him say anything? Or was it that he just silenced everybody with their money? Why didn't any of the African-American groups that took his money, Sterling's money, ever say anything about that?
Most likely no one knew. Look, who knew who Donald Sterling was a month and a half ago? Probably very few people in this country knew who he was. He was not even
in this country, but people who knew
by the way, he wasn't even a visible NBA owner. Say Mickey Aronson of the Miami Heat is a much more visible owner. Jerry Buss, Dr. Buss for the Lakers, was a very visible owner. What you have here is you had a person who was kind of under the radar. So only his intimate friends would probably know his behavior. And outwardly, he's not outwardly being a racist from what I understood. So he's supported, community organizations and the like. So, many times today, racism looks different. It's not out in the open because it's so unacceptable socially. So it's quiet. And so his behavior.
But also because I don't want to get too cynical here, but maybe some of those issues are overlooked when it comes to someone who is who is very wealthy, who has a lot of money to put around.
Absolutely. Look, someone told me once, who was a friend who will remain nameless, who was a billionaire, who was a little wild, told me that when you have $2 million and you act weird, you're crazy. When you have $2 billion and you act strange, you're eccentric.
You're a genius. All right, Don, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. Don Peebles, the chairman and CEO of the Peebles Corporation.